gotta do is set me free, little girl. You know that you can do it if you try. All you gotta do is set me free.
Ray, thanks so much for being here. It's a massive honour to speak to one of the authors of some of the greatest British songs ever written. Well, some of the greatest songs ever written, and with the Kinks and with your solo work. So I've got to ask, where did it all start? Didn't you have, let me get it right, 6 elder sisters who had good record collections?
Yeah, I came from family parties, and they were a lot older than my brother and myself. And they used to bring the boyfriends home, play their music. There was a lot of jazz, there was a lot of big band music. And then I had one sister who married an American or Canadian serviceman. She went to live in Canada. She was the one who sent over a lot of the early rock music, because it wasn't always accessible on the radio. And she sent over the records and told us about Elvis Presley before it was really popular here.
OK, so what did you make of that when you first heard it? Because there couldn't be much precedent for rock and roll.
No, well, I was pro-British then. I thought Elvis isn't as good as Tommy Steele. I don't know.
How right you were.
No, I didn't know. But what impressed me was the dynamics on the playing and the drum, the backbeat. Eddie Cochran brought over the boom, gabba boom, boom, gabba boom, ga. And he played all his own instruments. So Eddie Cochran was a big influence. She sent some of his early records. And my brother, Dave, he really admired Cochran's guitar playing.
So there's always music in the house. When did you start playing music?
Well, my debut was in front of the family when I was 3 years old, and I sang Temptation.
How did it go down?
I was a tremendous success.
Of course.
Yeah. Then, I don't know, then I went through a balladeer period. You know, I didn't really think about writing songs. My brother Dave, I went to art college, and my brother Dave was still at school, secondary school, and he started a band with Pete Quaife, who was the original Kinks bass player. And I played in a few blues bands. I met Alexis Corner, who was really the godfather of British blues. And Alexis got me a gig in a few bands. So I played in clubs in Soho and Richmond. It was at Richmond I encountered Davy Graham, the great troubadour.
Davy Graham, now this is a guitar pioneer, I suppose, is the only way to describe him. Could you just tell us a little bit about him and the influence he had on you?
Well, I was playing with this blues band in Richmond, the jazz club, and we had a break, and this guy, this incredible-looking guy, said, do you mind if I do a few songs, borrow your guitar to do a few songs? And he got up and played. And I've never heard anything like it. You know, I was a fan of Big Bill Broonzy and John Lee Hooker and a lot of great Americans. But Davy mixed a lot of the blues influences with Eastern sounds, Celtic sounds, and it was a complete fusion of all those elements that made him. And he was an outstanding-looking person and had tremendous style. And when he sang like Alexis. Alexis Corner was a Kensington-sounding bluesman. He sang in a Kensington accent, didn't really try to emulate the Americans. And Davy was a bit like that. And that influenced me to sing in my own accent. I turned off the idea of trying to emulate the American bluesmen, because it's their music. There are elements in what I do. I can write in that style, but it's their music, and that's why I evolved. When I started writing, I evolved the Kinks sound. You Really Got Me is a blues song, but it's got European shifts in it.
OK, just because my musical knowledge is very limited, how do you mean? Because as far as I can work out, You Really Got Me has maybe 3 chords.
I don't know, I think it's got 4. I've got my baby here. It's just in one chord. Really got me going, you got me so I don't know where to go in. You really got me now, you got me so I can't sleep at night, yeah. You really got me now. But instead, you really got me going, you got me so I don't know where I'm going. There was a key shift that did that, took it up a tone. And that's what made it different.
Okay, so instantly you've got something which you'd never find in a 12-bar blues.
Yeah.
It makes it inauthentic in a way, and that's therein lies its strength.
Yeah, I think it's a 12-bar blues. I think it's a 14-bar pattern. I'm not sure. I wouldn't like to swear to that.
Right.
But I always like to deviate from, you know, and I did things early on. I did things. I can't play it. Met a girl, fell in love, glad as I can be. I did the blues thing. Met a girl, fell in love, glad as I can be, riff. But I think all the time, is she true to me? So that, you know, you can. But then I put something different in. 'Cause there's nothing in the world to stop me worrying about that girl. So I always tried to make it different without trying to sound like a Delta blues person.
Yeah, well, that shift there, it sounded suddenly very melancholic. And I don't know if that's a minor key or a seventh, but it sounded like it was shifting into something which the blues would never do.
No, because you know, there's a certain element in the soul of playing. I think Anglo-Sax were European players. I kind of put different kinds of emotion in it.
Okay, so finding your voice, essentially you have this music that you love, but also not just the blues, but the music that you grew up with, you know, with the music of your sister's record collections. And I guess learning guitar, maybe playing around on the piano, whatever,
Sure.
From that, just maybe trying to learn other people's songs, you start beginning to find your own voice, is that right?
Yeah, on the first Kinks album, you know, I'd written You Really Got Me, and it was a #1 record. And everybody thought the record company wanted us to do what the Beatles did, and that's every song was an original. I said, no, we're still a covers band. We did Cadillac by Bo Diddley, we did Too Much Monkey Business.
Long Tall Sally.
Long Tall Sally. Chuck Berry was a big influence. And I wanted to be true to that spirit. I didn't think I'd keep writing songs. It was something that was thrust upon me.
Were you writing for the band? Were you writing for the Kinks and the personalities in the Kinks? Were you writing songs which you felt could be played by anyone?
I was writing certainly for the sound that my brother and I created in our little front room. We had because our radiogram was overused with the sisters playing the records really loud and then us playing records loud. The speakers got a little bit distorted, and I thought that's the way the bass should sound. So we got a small preamp, a sort of little. It was called the Green Amp. I think it was called Electrolux. It was some sort of cheap amp. And either, according to whether you speak to me or my brother, we stuck knitting needles in the speakers. He said he slashed it with a razor blade. So we made what made the speakers fart, basically, every time you hit the speaker with a chord. Then we plugged that into a regular amp, an AC30, made that very distinctive sound. So it's a signature sound to the Kinks. So after You Really Got Me, we stayed with that sound.
To come up with a song like that, would you be sitting with the guitar and maybe there's nothing, a blank slate, you know, an empty page in front of you, and you just start strumming and doing some chord changes until something comes out?
Strangely enough, I wrote all those songs on piano.